Time for us to turn our attention to the Gaelic football at the weekend. Kieran Donaghy joins us now. Kieran, good morning to you.
Morning. How's the form, boy?
Yeah, pretty good. The Mayo form is pretty good at the minute as well. Tell us a little bit about what you make of where Mayo's standing is in the aftermath of that game, because parts of the performance were brilliant and other parts were like they were just letting go straight back into it.
Yeah, that's kind of been Mayo's story really all year, but I was impressed with them now. We were behind the goals in the Gaelic grounds with Sky, and their movement up front was very good. The movement between Cohen and Cillian O'Connor was excellent. They seemed to have a great understanding. Obviously, James Carr's goal was amazing, but he was also added a lot to that. I think they got 2-9 between them in that full forward line. So they'll be really happy getting ready to go for Killarney. Their stalwarts at the back, Chris Barrett, Colin Boyle, Brendan Harrison, even Lee Keegan got a few minutes, but I thought Colin Boyle was very good. Paddy Durkin was brilliant. He did a man-marking job on Shane Walsh really and kept him out of the game from open play. Shane got 1-3 from frees and obviously the one late on. But yeah, no, they'll be really happy farm going to Killarney with a lot of confidence, looking to inflict the first championship defeat in Kerry in the stadium in a long time.
How big a difference, or how more of an advantage is that, having that momentum and having that road testedness going into an All-Ireland quarter-final, or in this case, the Super 8s? I mean, it's something that you would have been familiar with going through the qualifiers. Perhaps 10 years ago, you would have come up against that Dublin team and you would have been road-hardened, whereas they would have been rested up. It clearly doesn't matter to a team coming through the back door.
No, and people always say that with these teams that come through the back door. If they ever lose a game, it's because they're tired and they played too many games. And when they win a game, it's because they're on a roll and they have momentum and all that. So it doesn't matter, if these fellas are training so hard now and they're so fit that it doesn't matter if they're playing every week. It brings out the best in the team. It can get morale going. It can get confidence in fellas going. But Cillian O'Connor looked really sharp. For a fella who'd been out an awful long time, he looked really sharp the last day. He led the line, he had great body language, he was the aggressor all the time towards the Galway defenders. He looked for ball. As I said, every time he got it, they got their heads up, they kicked the ball through the line, and there seems to be a great level of understanding between the forwards that when the ball is won by somebody in around the 45 or outside it, that they're getting the head up, swinging it in, kicking it in straight away. So they seem to be really ticking along well. And yeah, they're going to be a hard beat on Sunday. But Kerry and Killarney have got themselves out of not an awful lot of trouble over the last 30 years in games they should have lost. So I'm sure they'll be looking for it. But it's going to be what an atmosphere it's going to be down in Killarney next Sunday. It's going to be pretty epic, I must say.
If you're looking at it from Mayo weaknesses point of view, there's loads of different parts that you can actually try and pick holes in. Most particularly, when they're 7 points up, they can't close the game out, they can't keep possession. They kind of retreated back into their own shell at various stages in that game against Galway, and they gave up a load of chances.
Yeah, it was 2-4 to 3 points. Mayo were up 7. The exact same scores it was in the Gaelic grounds between Kerry and Mayo at that time in 2014. And yeah, they play such a kind of attacking brand of football. They don't play that kind of blanket defence that Tyrone are playing at the moment. They really push out and they really push you high up the pitch, and that can leave you a small bit exposed. But I like the way they play because they're keeping Colin Boyle back as that safety valve, and he is kind of a good reader of the game, and he bails them out a few times if they're in trouble. But for as in giving up chances, Galway are a good side also with good forwards, so you're going to give up chances against a good side. But when you look at it, like they keyed in their main men, and didn't give them much inside, in fairness. So if it wasn't for kind of Peter Cook out around the middle of the field, Galway mightn't have even been in that game at half time. So Mayo are a high action, high paced team, and they will give up chances, but they're also attacking so much that they're hungry and they're looking for scores. And if they get a run, that's when they beat teams well. And if they don't get a run properly on you, they'll let you back into it. But it is a problem, and it is something James will be kind of guarded against, because against Armagh, they were home and hose, they were out the door, they were up 5 points, and they just became sloppy and they became kind of a bit nervy. and it probably had signs of a team that was desperate to make the Super 8 because they missed out on it last year. So, they're in there now. They've got 3 games, and it'll be very interesting to see how they get on in Killarney on Sunday.
The Peter Cook performance is very interesting, Kieran, because I do wonder if he showed up an area with which you can target Mayo at, that with Matthew Moran out, with Diarmuid O'Connor out, that putting Aidan O'Shea on the back foot is something you can have a lot of success with. Like, Jason McGee will be going up against Aidan O'Shea, you'd imagine, and he's a point-kicking midfielder as well. Brian Fenton would thrive in that role as well. Is this a big Achilles heel now for Mayo that Galway have exposed?
I don't think so. To be honest, I think Aidan was kind of really only on him for probably one of the points, as in right on him. He's probably back helping, and if you're playing help defence, which Mayo do very well, I don't think they're worried about who scores. It's just the opposition scoring, and I think Aidan, for a few of those points, was back helping, and 2 of them got recycled back out. Kind of 2 big ones from out. He certainly did go at Aidan O'Shea, and it is something again that Mayo will look to tighten up on, that when Aidan is back kind of helping, because he's kind of like the dictator back there. He goes back and he moves Colin Boyle back out, and he says he'll sit, and he's very good at organising them. I see him, he's a great communicator. Hands are going all the time, he's shouting at fellas to push. But yeah, at times it did look like he was kind of leaving himself a small bit isolated as a defensive sweeper, that when his man eventually did come onto the ball, he couldn't get back out to him in time. And but Cook's 4 points were excellent, and it is possibly somewhere where Kerry will look to maybe get like a David Moran that's going to come onto the ball a lot. But I would say that it's something that Mayo will have tidied up by next Sunday.
Where now for Galway? Like, a lot of assumption that that's the end of the Kevin Walsh era, that they haven't quite made use of the array of attacking players they have. I see somebody making the case in the papers today that the next manager is going to come in and realise that his defenders just aren't up to scratch, and that's why the team plays such a defensive style. What's your take on that whole Kevin Walsh era generally? Like, did he get enough from the players over the course of his 5 years?
Yeah, I think he got them to an All-Ireland semi-final. I think he got two kind of championships. He was, and he was. Look, there was the year we played them when they were kind of really open at the back, and we put a lot of long ball in, and we scored well off it. And I think the year after that, he came back with a kind of a new philosophy, and they became really aggressive, really pushed up in your face. And when you got out past that early press, they were very quick to turn their back on the ball and just get back and create that kind of a blanket defence. But yeah, they probably a small bit exposed. I'm surprised Sean Andy O'Callaghan didn't start. I like him. He's big, he's strong, he's aggressive. Liam Silk is more of a half-back. He found himself back in the full-back line. So, they do have stuff that they will have to look at in the off-season, but there's an awful lot of potential there. There's an awful lot of good players there. And, they were in an All-Ireland semi-final last year. So they probably did get further than they've ever gotten before, but probably with the talent they have. But, they have to, them players have to get it out of themselves more on bigger days, especially up front. And you can't underestimate Comer. Like, Comer is a bull in a china shop, and he was on, he was very ring rusty the weekend, but he absolutely caused consternation when he went inside there. He competed very well for ball. He was probably trying to do a bit much at times, but it was all with the goodness of Galway at heart. He was just trying to really get the crowd going and get his team back into the game, and he did force some stuff early. But, you can't underestimate how much of a loss he was to the whole operation, really, because if you could have Farrer, Burke and Comer inside, and maybe keeping a Shane Walsh further up the field, I wouldn't have him back. He spent all over the inline for a Galway kick out the last day, and it was Shane Walsh that was kind of shepherding a man out over the line to make sure it was a Galway. And I just looked at him kind of jogging back up the pitch. I was like, you can't have your most talented, your most skillful, and the player with the most pace be so defensive. It's something they have to look at, whether they have to get him into the full forward line and play him on top of the D. But he's too good to have back there in my eyes.
Did the goalkeeping change work?
No, it didn't. And look, it's a big risk when you change a goalkeeper. And to be honest, it's a risk that I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Is it the one to go with when you're going making a change? Your goalie. I think Lavelle has been solid enough, but maybe Power was showing really well in training, and you have to go with him. But it's just the first one or two kickouts didn't go where you want him to go. Then one went out over the sideline. Next thing he's picking the ball out of the back of his net after making a mistake. He didn't look comfortable on the ball, which I think keepers have to be comfortable on the ball these days. He looked like his soloing wasn't great when he was kind of coming on as a kind of the last man back when he was trying to bring Galway with the pitch. It looked like he didn't want to be out past his 21. And I think Mayo almost kind of played on that. They marked up everybody else and left him come out. And once he got out near the 45, he was kind of looked a bit like he just wanted to get rid of the ball. So I don't know. It was a tough one for them. In fairness, look, obviously Liam Silk's penalty miss that gets them back within 3 points with 10 minutes to go, and it's anybody's game for a team who didn't really play well. So, look, Mayo will give you chances, but unfortunately for Galway, they didn't take enough from the last day.
Kevin Walsh's quotes in the aftermath of the game were interesting. He said, a few awful decisions put us on the back foot. I know referees are under serious pressure being driven by the top. He says they're being put under serious pressure, but there is agendas probably being driven by the top. It probably puts pressure on them to make all the silly decisions. What are these agendas that are being pushed from the top? Because he didn't really clarify when asked in a follow-up question.
I don't know. I think sometimes when you're in the, to be fair to Kevin, when you're in the midst of GA management and you're getting a bit of heat, and you're getting a lot of heat for maybe the way you played over the last year or two, about how defensive Galway are, and they're traditionally such a good free-flowing football team, a team that won All Ireland's back when Kevin was playing with players like Michael Donlan, Pádraig Joyce and these fellas. So, maybe he's...
Oh, that phone line's gone there. We'll call Kieran back until he comes out and says exactly what he was talking about. Because the refereeing decisions didn't seem to be particularly unbalanced one way or the other, did they?
Not really, no. I don't. It's hard to know unless you're actually kind of a bit more partisan, or if you were a Galway manager or a Mayo manager and you really are kind of watching for it.
Yeah, but
maybe we are the actual
exactly. So it didn't feel like it was particularly egregious one way or the other.
No, it wasn't a perfect refereeing performance, but there is no such thing as a perfect refereeing performance in modern Gaelic football. It's a nigh impossible game to referee. So I thought Joe McQuillan did an alright job. I certainly wouldn't be coming away from it thinking that was the reason why Mayo won the game for sure.
Yeah, okay, so Tyrone, Cork and Meath are also through on the other results from the weekend. I think we've got Kieran back there. Yeah, we'll get you on the phone now, Kieran. Let's talk a little bit about Tyrone's performance, because interesting piece from Cara Kane a couple of weeks back now, after the Kildare game and before the weekend, saying that when Tyrone come up against the big boys, and we're about to see it, that the reversion to their running game and the defensive game won't actually be good enough for them, that they're going to have to do something different. And I don't know, I always felt like being able to go back to first principles in time of crisis is a good thing, and then they have enough work done during the league that, and they also have a full forward now that they believe they can pump the ball into. But actually, Tyrone are in pretty good position at the minute.
I think Tyrone are in an absolutely fantastic position. I won't lie. I think they look so solid. Like they're playing the Galway team did in 2011. That's what it looked like against Cavan the last day. It was kind of everyone behind the ball, bar Cathal Machine, everyone get back inside around 50 yards back and just try and break us down and try and run through us, and we'll turn you over, and then we'll use our Sluddens and our Matty Donnellys and these fellas to carry the ball up the pitch and to get it into McCurry and if they're up there at that stage. But they're certainly playing that blanket defensive system really well. But obviously, I know Donaghy got a lot of stick that time when they were everybody inside their 45. But Tyrone were almost getting away with being that negative because of how impressive they are in the counter attack, and it's a style that they know, and it's a style that looking at them against Cavan on Saturday. Cavan just could not break it down. They could not get it. Their key fellas are being marked out of it. There's bodies everywhere. Not most attractive to watch, but really, really effective. And you know, it's that Tyrone machine is starting to hum along perfect. And I would say Mickey Hart couldn't be happier with where his team are at the moment. And you know, they have the defensive style down, but now they're coupling that with McShane inside, who's a breath of fresh air around the place, and you know, just looks so sharp. And you know, he won a ball out by the sideline, going nowhere with a man behind him, and he just turned so quickly in his left in along the inline and set up the goal chance for the midfielder Kennedy. So you know, they're going to be right there. Nobody's going to want to play them in an All Ireland semi final. I see them coming through this group with I think they'll win their first two games and be going into that Dublin game with a chance to see if they could knock them off there again, because they've beaten them in Croke Park this year already in the league, and if they could beat them in a qualifier game or a Super 8 game, they won't fear them again then in the final. So no, they're really impressed with Tyrone. Really like where they're at. In my head, they're the number 2 team in the country right now.
Right.
Like, I was very, very excited after watching that performance as well on Saturday night, but like, I've been excited by this Tyrone team before. 2017, and they absolutely hockeyed Armagh, I think, in Croke Park that night. They gave us the same sense that they are going to cause a lot of trouble, and we all know what happened against Dublin that year. Granted, they fixed little things since then, but Donegal showed up weaknesses again this year. Have they changed enough from that Donegal game, let alone 2017, to actually cause a real threat to Dublin? And a real threat is not beating them in Omagh, because Dublin may well be qualified by then. A real threat is going all the way, and if it is a repeat of last year's All-Ireland final, actually putting in a better showing.
Yeah, well, look, that's, you know, they've two very definite game styles. You know, they've the one where, you know, they're getting back and they're kind of, or they're pushing up and they're being defensive and they're trying to get turnovers and trying to get it into McShane and Matty Donnelly with diagonal ball. And then they have the kind of format that they've kind of reverted to through this qualifier run, which is this 13 men behind the ball. These calling McShane up, tackle hard all over the pitch, but basically just kind of welcome them back into the defensive kind of shape that Tyrone has set up. And they move really well, they communicate really well, they're good group tacklers. They love when you try and take it into contact, and they'll pick you off as soon as they get that. So we can't tell whether they're going to be, you know, they're going to beat Dublin this year. But all I can tell you is I think they're in a really good place. I think Darren McCurry is looking as sharp as I've ever seen him. Matty Donnelly is obviously fine. Pádraig Hampsey is back now, and McShane inside is good, and they're solid in the middle of the field too, with Colm Kavanagh and Brian Kennedy. So they have kind of all the weapons in place, and I think they're building that kind of run Tyrone can do through the qualifiers. And yeah, no, I don't think Kavanagh are a bad team. And they just made them look so ordinary the last day, and you know, they just you could tell it was a team that was really sure about themselves versus a team that's just starting to come under Mickey Graham.
Last year, Roscommon took a few hidings in the Super 8s, and Kildare eventually in that game against Kerry also ended up getting hammered in the last one, which is a dead rubber. Do we expect Cork and Meath maybe to be in a similar situation this year, or can they actually prove that the 7th and 8th best teams in the country are worthy of a place in the last 8?
Yeah, I think Cork will be very wide up by their performance again, and they'll go in with a great sense of kind of let's have a cut, but we're not expected to win, and this isn't the game we're targeting. It'll be the two afterwards, and that's where Cork's head will be. And you know, can Cork put it up to Roscommon under their course? They can. Can they put it up to Tyrone with their running game? They can. But it's you know, Meath on the other side. Meath of a tough draw with the group they're going to be in. Donegal, Mayo and Kerry are all teams that are, But Meath, they have a proud history. They won't feel them. They'll half fancy and half relish a good crack of them teams. But that it'll be up to them to see where they're at. In fairness, they've done well to get here. Cork, put in a really, really good performance down the Munster final. And I know Kerry missed chances, but so does Cork. And they would have been coming out of that feeling, kind of a bit unlucky that they didn't push on and get it over the line. So they'll have a bit of confidence on the back of that, and to go away and just Chukwu's done a great job at least, and they're not a bad side. So when I saw that scoreline coming in, it just kind of 4:20 was the only game I didn't see. I saw the highlights last night in the Sunday game, but it was the only game I didn't see live over the weekend. And when I heard that scoreline, I couldn't wait to see. And I thought they were absolutely terrific. I thought, Hurley and Collins inside. I loved the way Cork were playing the high diagonal ball and over the top, keep teams guessing, because obviously we know their running game is so power packed, and we know they are good at running down the middle on you. But this win had a bit of everything the weekend. Now, granted that the scoreline, like 5 or 6 minutes into the second half, the game was kind of out of sight.
Yeah.
And they could really express themselves with their foot passing, but making those 40-yard outside of the boot foot pass of the game and the line is different story. They were up 10 points, but nevertheless, it was very impressive by Cork the weekend, and it just makes I think it'll be an exciting Super 8. It's better than it was last year, because of the fact that I just think there's huge fixtures every weekend, and the whole idea of starting the provincial winners playing at home is good, because last year you were winning the provincial and your first game was in Croke Park, so I think that idea is good. So they're going to be some great games.
Right, just to reiterate, in a shocking turn of events, you are saying Tyrone are the second best team in the country, which completely steals the thunder from tomorrow's unveiling of Owen's power rankings. But that's okay, Kieran, because I think many people might agree with you.
Well, we might talk about the power rankings this week in Shocklock, because poor old Owen is getting the small angles, and we sit down to these power rankings and see where he's coming from, and we can talk that one out.
Nice one, Kieran. Good stuff. I see
all right, boys.
The Meath GA Twitter account were retweeting Tommy's trolling of you.
Like, who cares? Is what I would say. Who actually cares?
Well, you've made it to the inner sanctum of the Meath dressing room, and just before throw-in, they're like, power rankings. That's what I'm imagining.
They haven't disproved anything. The big thing that you took issue with last week was that I put Cork ahead of Meath in the power rankings. I don't think this weekend proved that Meath are a better team than Cork. The people seem to pick this up wrong, as if I'm saying Meath are bad, Cork are good. No, that's way too unnuanced a view. I said Cork are better than Meath. They're one place ahead of Meath. They're close. The results can go either way if they happen to play in the morning. I think Cork just have the edge on them. Cork are brilliant at the weekend. Like, putting up 420 against Laois on Saturday was unbelievable. They have two of the best. They have three elite forwards in terms of Brian Hurley, Mark Collins and Rory Dean. The first two of them scored, 312 between them on Saturday. I think there was only 4 frees involved as well. Like, that is outrageous scoring. It shows that what they've done in Munster wasn't a fluke. Granted, one of the games was against Limerick. It was still a huge score, but that Limerick team had beaten Tipperary. What they did against Kerry was as much to do with Kerry's defensive failings as it was to do with Cork being good enough and sharp enough to actually exploit those defensive frailties. Cork are a good side. The problem is, though, is it all just going to come tumbling down to Saturday night after what will inevitably be a hammering at the hands of Dublin?
Well, it might not be a hammering, right? So it might be 124 to 312, 314 game that is like an 8-point defeat. It doesn't feel like a hammering, because they'll take the goal chances that Meath and Kildare created but couldn't score.
Maybe, yeah, and they will actually, yeah, exactly, and they definitely have better point takers in my view than Meath do, but obviously at the back and in terms of the half-back line and the midfield that Meath bring to proceedings, that is a far better department than Cork. A Meath-Cork hybrid team would be pretty good.
You're delighted because at the start of the year you predicted that Cork were going to be dark horses, or would be.
I predicted they'd reach the Super 8s. I'm not saying I'm some sort of Nostradamus.
I just like
I'm pretty happy.
It's the first time that we never get. Owen doesn't really. He's not very committed to this job at all. Never contacts us outside of office hours at all. But he was straight on the WhatsApp group immediately after, going, somebody predicted Cork would outperform this year. I was like, who was it? Was it me? It's like, no, it was you.
That would be your trigger reaction, all right. To be fair, I'm not gloating. It was pretty obvious to see from the outset. All they had to do was win one game in Munster and hopefully get a softish draw in the qualifiers.
And lo and behold, it came to pass.
Exactly, but not bragging.
Now that we do have our final 8 counties left in this year's championship, tomorrow morning we will be bringing the very latest update on our Specsavers Gaelic football power rankings. It did kick off between Meath and Cork fans last week, to the point where the official Meath Twitter feed was definitely getting involved this week, which was interesting. Well, they were retweeting Tommy, and then I was actually wondering, is Tommy Rooney secretly the puppet master for all of Meath's dealings with the media generally? He might well be.
I think Tommy is actually Andy McEntee.
I've never seen them in the same room.
Neither have I.
Just to remind you, this Wednesday night, the 10th of July, with thanks to Super Value, we've got an exclusive off-air roadshow coming your way from Gweedore. Nathan Murphy is presenting, Kevin Cassidy, Amy McGee, Brendan Devaney and more will be joining us on the night. Check out offtheball.com/events for tickets. Lads are flying up, which means that Nathan can fly home as well.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Who's in this plane?
I'm not sure, but Nathan is anyway.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
No.
Let's get in the car.
Well, it's too far. Too far, they said. This way, no one has to drive back.
Is this after Jack Nicklaus's retweet of Golf Weekly that suddenly Nathan will only fly to far-flung destinations?
He's a big-time Charlie. It's essentially so that they can go on the pace properly in Gweedore and not feel like they're responsible the next morning.
So they're flying back as well the next day? Well, I suppose if you get there, you got to get home in some manner.
Well, they ain't walking back.
That's sickening. The boom is back.
Well, apparently the Donegal lads based in Dublin used to get helicopters up to Donegal.
Yeah, but that's because they're Michael Murphy, not because they're Nathan Murphy.
And he deserves it. All right.